There we go. Now we can, well, we can start without the recording as well. But, people asked to record, so we record a little bit. So, welcome. So nice we're here together. Our last online talk, because it's Saturday. I'll be well, we hope. We hope that I'll be in Florida. Let's see if things come together for me to arrive there, to get there. So it's wonderful that we have this opportunity to continue these talks about Lojong, about mind training, mind transformation, transforming the mind. Many different ways you can talk about it. Actually, it's quite easy to see that we can transform the mind, we can transform ourselves, because we can see how we were when we were young, or maybe we had some, opinions and experiences, and how this has been changing with time. So we can see that things do change, and the mind has the potential that our opinions, our views, our taste also changes. So we know that, we know how things are. But what is the difference between that type of like just transformation of the mind and the type of transformation of the mind that the Buddha is proposing here, and especially Atisha, this text that we are looking, which is not from Atisha, sorry, from Gen Langripa. So he is trying to show us a path of transformation from two things. And especially the most important aspect of transformation is recognizing first that our current way of thinking, behaving, speaking, and trying to understand and find happiness is mainly a selfish and self centered type of quest for achieving that. So, the transformation that we are talking about here, the main purpose of this thought transformation text and these methods, I would say, is to transform this selfish, self-centered mindset into a altruistic, into a compassionate mindset. Which, if you think about it, we don't have that much of training in our daily lives. We go to school. Normally, schools don't think so much about it. Sometimes, yes, schools can play such an important role in that, and especially teachers in really thinking about society, about the colleagues, about the school, about your neighborhood, about your friends. Very, very special. But normally it's not like that. And then you go to university, then even worse, University is really thinking about your career, your future, you're getting, the best job after you finish. So then we kind of like miss out. And sometimes we can learn that at home or we have people in our lives and we all know that and we all experience and we all do these things. So it's not something that is new, right? However, it's a little bit further, even further than just an altruistic mind. The mind that, the Buddhist, this Lojong training is trying to get us. We need to remember that the goal of the Buddhist path is enlightenment. And what is enlightenment? The total elimination of our suffering and the causes of our suffering. Okay? Mental suffering, physical suffering, all types of suffering. But then, not only this elimination of our suffering and the causes of our suffering, so we never suffer again. No more anger, no more attachment, no more jealousy, no more pride, no more selfish attitudes, no more low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, nothing. Gone. Everything. So that is the first aspect of enlightenment, right? Of Buddhahood, of becoming a Buddha. So a Buddha is just that idea of someone that has eliminated the suffering, the cause of suffering, and someone that has developed all the qualities that we right now have, for example, as compassion, as love, as kindness, but that right now our love and our compassion, they are completely restricted, limited. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. If I'm not nice to you, I'm not nice to you. You know, that's it. That's how it goes. So what the Buddhist path will say is that I need to help myself and others to be free from their suffering and help them to develop this compassionate mindset, this altruistic mind. More than that, that mind that loves and cares and thinks about others all the time. That unlimited and unconditional type of qualities. So that is what we call the wish to develop this, the wish to achieve this enlightenment. It's called bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is that word that means body, which is, awaken, and mind, chitta, mind. So the awakened mind, that mind that will bring you to the enlightened state. And it has, in a way, bodhicitta has two aspirations as a basis of it. And the first one is that idea that I want to achieve enlightenment. Therefore, it means that I want to be free from suffering and the cause of suffering, and I want to develop my good qualities. That is the basis. Basis. If we don't have that, forget about altruistic, forget about helping others, forget about it's gonna be total a play of the ego, just like you go to Broadway and it's the same, just like kind of like a show, just as it is. Because if you don't actually understand and develop that understanding of your own suffering and wanting to be free from that suffering, then forget about helping others to eliminate that suffering. Otherwise, we lose the understanding of what suffering means and what actually the goal of the elimination, completely elimination of suffering that we are talking about in Buddhism. So that is why it's so important that we make it clear in our minds that bodhicitta has that self-interest, as a part of their aspiration. And that helps counteract those feelings that sometimes people come and say, oh, because I help others, but I feel depleted, I feel like exhausted, I feel, so tired. And I always say, then it's not really some type of like real help in the way of Buddhism is saying. Because the type of help and benefit that we can bring to others, it's actually nourishing us. Okay? Why? Because it's helping counteract our own suffering. Does it make sense? Yes? You guys following it? Yes? Okay. So this is the first aspect of the aspiration. So thinking about oneself being free from suffering and elimination of the causes and developing the good qualities. Secondly, we are talking about the the transformation or the expansion of that wish towards all sentient beings. Very important, because the expansion of that wish is not only dedicated to, oh yes, I want my family, my friends, my colleagues, I want them to be free from suffering, but those people that I don't like being mean to me and all of that, or that politician that I don't like, or all of this, let them suffer. Not like this. That's not real compassion, That is just a bit kind of like what we have now, which is just like, I have my friends, and as long as me and my friends and family are okay, then the world can explode. That doesn't make much sense. That is exactly what causes all the complications and, that and wars and difficulties that we have right now, is that segregation of thinking and not going a little bit deeper in understanding the equanimity aspect of our existence. What does it mean? It means that in a deeper and subtle way, we are all equal in wanting to be happy and not suffer. There's no difference. My happiness and my wish to not be free, my wish to be free from suffering is no different than any of yours. Any of yours. It's exactly the same. So because we don't think in this way, because we don't develop that understanding, Then when we start to talk about compassion, we start to think about the external type of manifestation of help, or we think about, just short term type of health. Because if we are thinking about, the equanimity in this equanimous, is that a word? Equanimous way? Christopher, you're gonna see that I invent words sometimes, so you guys gonna have some fun with me. And then we have that basis of equanimity. Then from there, we can actually develop what we call, compassion, love, joy, all of those more kind of like unlimited type of and unconditional type of love, compassion, joy. And so that will kind of like start counteract that idea that bodhicitta might be only about benefiting me and me being away, from wanting to be free from suffering. So those two minds, they are kind of like feeding each other in a way. The more I understand my own suffering and the more I understand that I want to be free from it, the more I want others to have the same, because I understand where their suffering is coming from. I understand why this person is being mean to me, why this person is angry, why this person is sad, why this person is attached, why this person is complaining, why this person is, anxious, low self-esteem, depressed, all of this. Because I start to look at that into myself and I understand that we are exactly the same. Reasons why I get angry and why I get, what is sparks, as I like to say, what makes the spark of my anger and my attachment to arise, totally different. That is individual in some ways, as we all know. When we think about, Casamaya. Casamaya, Christopher, is this restaurant, this Mexican restaurant that we have just underneath the center. And you go, there's a delicious food. They have an amazing burrito. So when we talk about burrito, my attachment immediately sparks. Boom, then it goes. But maybe some other people don't feel so much about burritos, so they say, no, 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 not my thing. So the reasons, the sparks, very different. Okay? But the wish of wanting to have, the burrito as a cause, as the cause of my happiness, exactly the same. Okay? So understanding, doesn't matter the object, but that mind that thinks that the burrito is gonna bring me happiness, exactly the same. So then I start to understand that the mindsets, those minds, I need to eliminate. And then it comes a different aspect of bodhicitta, is that if I understand that the mind is the creator of the happiness and the suffering, therefore I cannot go inside of anyone's mind and take a little thing and switch something and say, okay, now you are free from all your sufferings. No, I can't do that. That is very humbling and very empowering in a way. So that is very important that we understand that. Why then, how can I do that? So how? So Calden, you're almost saying to me that I cannot help others. No, the opposite is that we need to then develop a mental state, a mind that has all the qualities, and not only the mind, but a body that can have all the necessary conditions to help others, to learn, to assimilate, to inspire, to kind of like help in so many ways, whatever it is, so they can do that inner job. That is the only way. Does it mean that we cannot do the external help because people need external help? Quite the opposite. Yes, we have to. We need to give food, we need to give shelter, we need to give help, we need to give many things, medicine, hugs, as I say, best type of medicine. Yes, we can do, we have to do all of these things, but as a step towards helping others to do this inner work. That is the thing. that is sometimes confusing for us when we talk about bodhicitta, developing bodhicitta. So these attacks that we are checking, we are doing, going through it. I'm not gonna say giving a commentary, because I don't comment on anything. Well, actually, I comment on everybody and everything, but it's not nice commentary. So it's not like this. So it's just like a kind of like we're going through it together. But that is the point of this text. Why I'm emphasizing this every day, so we understand when you read it what was the goal of the text, and how we can apply this text that was written, in the 13th century into our 21st century. Because otherwise it doesn't make so much sense, because otherwise it makes, like, oh, what are they talking about? Doesn't make, so we need to bring to our own lives. Okay? So, with that in mind, now that we understood the goal, now we understood what it is, we can establish the motivation, the intention why we are here together. Christopher, you're gonna see I'm horrible at kind of like, I talk too much. But we always start these talks with the intention, with a motivation. Why? Because the motivation and the intention will bring us to a certain result. Cause and effect. If I want, to have an apple juice, I need to plant apple seeds. Easy to understand, no? If I want orange juice, I need to plant orange seeds. Well, nowadays, just get the car, go to Costco or Publix or whatever you have there, Walmart, and then you just get it, no? But you have to have that wish. So, right now, as we've been saying, our minds work normally on a on a kind of a, yes, selfish type of way. So therefore, whatever the result we're gonna have is gonna be a limited, conditional type of happiness, because it's only thinking about me. So that is why we try to develop and to bring that wish, even here in what we are doing together, that wish to develop our minds, that wish to develop our, open our hearts, so we can develop that bodhicitta and achieve enlightenment, so we can benefit others. So that's what we need to try, okay? So we try to generate that wish, we try to generate that motivation, that everything that we're gonna hear, everything that we're gonna talk, everything that we're gonna discuss or reflect about this, blah blah blah, from Cowden and from us together, that these can make the necessary causes and conditions for us to achieve that state, for us to be able to help others in that bodhicitta motivation. Okay? And then to make that stronger, we're going to do what we call aspirational prayers, aspirational wishes, as I like to say. Prayers, sometimes has a very religious and strong connotation. Not like that, more of an idea of generating, helping us to aspire, help us generate these aspirations. Okay? So that is the idea. So then I'm gonna share with you, and then we can kind of like, you know, make these aspirational prayers together. And we're gonna start with the four immeasurables, which is, the basics, as I like to say, of developing that bodhicitta. So that's why I like to start with the equanimity one. As I say, the equanimity is the basis, so we start with that. So we just think a moment for those that have a connection with a teacher or with the Buddha in Dharma, in Sangha, you can visualize them in front of you. And they are looking at you, with these eyes of compassion, accepting you and wanting to help us to develop our bodies, speech, mind, and our heart, so we can achieve enlightenment. That's what they want. They want our enlightenment. So we need to also aspire that. And we can visualize around us all our friends, family, colleagues, and also all those people that we have difficulties with. They are also in front of us, because we also want to help them. So this is a reminder. And then surrounding us, all other beings, that we don't know, other 8 billion people in this world that we don't know. And all the animals as well, everybody. So the more we think about those beings, helping them, the faster the vast our mind and our heart becomes, and the more energy we have to actually accomplish that goal. So with that, we're going to do these aspirational prayers. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So we can think that we wish that for them. Oh, wait. There we go. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. So with that, we try to create that mindset in our minds, that wish. And here we're gonna take refuge saying that we want the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha to actually help us achieve that goal of enlightenment. And for that, we are doing that because we are wanting to achieve enlightenment, because we want to benefit all sentient beings. So we're going to do 2 times in English and 1 in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la janju bardu dani kyapsu chi dagi chunye ki pe sonam ki drola panche sangye drupar sho. Very good. Can you see it, the text now? The 8 verses?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah,
Yes.
okay, thank you. So, we're going to start today with the second verse, which is a verse very, very special. I try to use it quite a lot because I have a lot of attachment, a lot of selfish, and a lot of pride. So it goes like this: wherever I am and whoever I am with, I will always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depth of my heart, hold others dear and supreme. So that is the text, how the text go, and it's so important that we really understand this text. So, and especially that verse, it's a verse that is so powerful because it's talking about, I always consider myself the lowest of all. Wherever I am and whoever I am with, I always consider myself the lowest of all. Why are we talking, what are we trying to talk about here? Well, as as we've said in the beginning, as we know, we have a very easy, spontaneous, effortlessly. It's effortless. We just simply think about me, myself, and I, and myself, my own happiness all the time, isn't it? All the time. I'm just thinking about, I wake up thinking the things I have to do and all of that, and with me and me and me. And even when I have kids and I have a partner and I have, jobs that will benefit other, there is still that thing of like, okay, and me, but well, me, I have to do, I'm doing this because I want to receive that, because there's always that, So wherever I am and whoever I am with, it's always there. So, what is that kind of like attachment, that self cherishing, that we are talking about? Me, 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 me. We can also talk about pride. Pride is a strong sense of self, it's an inflated sense of me, the center of the universe. And not only is me the center of the universe, but I over exaggerate our my own qualities, right? My own characteristics. And especially, okay, or especially, I don't know if I can say, I need to use a stronger word, specifically, I think maybe in relation to others. Okay? So that puts us on this pedestal, you know? So I am here and others are down there. Do you recognize that? Do you understand that feeling that sometimes we have? That we are here and others are there, you know? And especially when we talk about pity, oh, poor person, or poor this, or poor that. Wow. Pity is incredibly, if you think about it, like, you know, if we really analyze pity, we need to check because normally it's coming from some pride, which is very different than looking pity in the way of compassion, of like, I want to eliminate that suffering, because that is the definition of compassion, right? I was like, oh, wow, I can relate to that suffering, and I hope that this person can be free from suffering. Very different, that type of pity. But also, I need to say here a few things about pride, which is there is also some sort of good pride, if I can say, right? So, for example, you can feel, proud of your good deeds, like you did something good and you say, oh, yeah, okay. So you take your right hand, you put on your left shoulder and you say, well done, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because it is true. You did something that is nice, that is beneficial, that is good. So there is that feeling of, oh, okay, recognizing your own good qualities. Because otherwise, what normally happens is that we are extremists, We are kind of like a little bit of extreme people, all of us, okay? Of course, some other than others in some things and some other than others in other things. But we all go into to the extremes, to the poles. So, what does it mean is that when we start to think about, oh, okay, either I go into a very kind of like self proud, I am the best, I am, kind of like this, or I go to a low self esteem, right? So, low self esteem and pride are completely connected. They are totally connected. They are kind of like the two poles of the same coin, which is a good relationship with the self, with yourself. So you either are hating yourself or you're loving yourself too much. So normally when we are feeling down and we are feeling a little bit kind of, when many people suffer bullying or suffer kind of like, they are kind of like repressed or anything like that, sometimes pride comes out, right? As a way to toughen up, to puff, yourself and not feel that. But then we go to the extremes and then we start to do the same with others. We start to bully others, we start to be kind of like, bad to others, to suppress others and all of that, to repress others, all this. So not very good, right? And then what happens is that when we are too proud, and then you read a text that says, wherever I am, whoever I am, I always consider myself the lowest of all. Then you go to the other extreme and say, oh, I'm so bad. I should kind of like be the one, like that. Then no good. That's not the idea of the text. The idea of the text is understanding and recognizing the mind of pride and attachment towards oneself, and realizing that this pride and this attachment will not be the causes of your happiness and cannot be there, let's say like that. You cannot keep that mind as your autopilot if you want to develop bodhicitta and help others. That is the idea. Remember, this idea of this text is about developing bodhicitta. So pride and attachment is a hindrance to developing bodhicitta. It's an obstacle. So that's why we're talking here about recognizing that, recognizing wherever I am and whoever I am with. So that is so important. The first step is always the recognition. Check, 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 check where I am, how I am. Am I being proud here? Am I kind of like using that? That's very important. That's, the first line. Second line, so again, I always consider myself the lowest of all. So what does it mean? It means that it is in pride in the context of others, of demeaning others, right? They are not as good as me, for example, which is the basis of like attachment, no, and clinging. Or can even, if I think, oh yeah, they are not as good as me, can be a source of aversion. I will not associate with someone that is lowest or as not as good as me. Also, is there that thought of me being proud and good enough. And then, the problem of pride is that it um, doesn't allow us to look into our weak spots, isn't it? And we actually many times close ourselves from learning. And even we can have spiritual pride, as I say. There is, when we're gonna talk, when, I hope that we can do it. I'm already organizing for us to have a talk about introduction to Tantra. And introduction to Tantra, we talk about, divine pride. Very different than what we're talking about here, okay? Divine pride is something that is kind of like seeing the qualities and the potential for us to achieve enlightenment. Like recognizing that. Here, when I'm talking about, the source, the idea of kind of like of pride and pedestal is that we exaggerating our qualities that are completely in like in a delusion, completely in this disharmony with reality. So it's not recognizing our own weak spots, our own, kind of like difficulties. And when we're talking about spiritual pride, is that we think that we have achieved or we have evolved or we have the knowledge or we know best or, oh, now I heard about that, so I know better than everybody. There's like this. Okay? So is that exaggeration of our positive qualities. And then, um is has to be some ways in relation. It's like I'm exaggerating my positive qualities because I'm devaluating another person. Okay? So I can be like, oh, I'm stronger than these, I'm more beautiful, I'm smarter, I'm richer, I'm better qualified, all of these. Do you recognize that in your daily lives, that these thoughts sometimes comes? You meet someone new or you are at work and then someone has, and then, you like that, oh, I could have done that better. That like little thoughts that comes out sometimes. It's like, oh, but this person is like, wow, how can this person be doing this? I should be doing that. I always say pride is bringing the spotlight to yourself. It's like you are in the Broadway and you want the spotlight with you all the time. That's what pride does. It's always about me and me being the center. So then, what the text is gonna tell us or help us, welcome Bob, is gonna be to say, okay, when you recognize pride, we can recognize wherever and whoever you are with, that you are devaluing, that you are, kind of demeaning others. You think I should always consider myself the lowest of all. Why? Why does it mean that? Okay? It means that we are trying to balance these, kind of like healthy, trying to bring back to a healthy balance, a health self-confidence. Okay? So we should be proud of our good qualities, but in relation to those that are really good qualities, and not the ones that we don't actually have or we have but they are limited right now. So we should think about, one of the best ways to think about pride is to just think about all the things that you don't know, you know? You don't know how to kind of like, I don't know, code. I don't know, someone here is coding something, by coding. You don't know how to kind of like, don't know how to, I don't know, I don't know anything. I don't know how to build a house. I don't know how to build a car. I don't know how to, any of these things that I use, or even produce any of these things that I use. I don't know how to sew. Sew, that word. So if you think about it, there's so many things in our lives that we don't know. So that is kind of like to think about it. And especially when we are with others, when we are with others, we have that incredible opportunity of learning. We have this credible opportunity to have someone adding to our own way of thinking and perception from different points of view. So when we are with others, instead of just thinking about ourselves and me, my opinion, whatever I want, blah, 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 we should think, being kind of like humble. Humble doesn't mean, you just kind of like allow people to just step on you. Not like that. But you understand the qualities of yourself and others. And more than that, normally, which is very important, when we are contaminated, controlled by our attachment to ourselves and our pride, we normally speak and even act in ways that can be harmful for others. Do you agree? We can lie. We can, do things. We can even cheat, because we have that pride very strong in ourselves. So remember, as we have been saying, this text is about developing bodhicitta, developing the wish to benefit others. So before we even think about benefiting others, we need to stop harming them. Okay? So that is why we should think about, in that sense of, I always consider myself the lowest of all. So that first phrase is in relation to that first step of, before I can help, I need to stop harming. Okay? And then the rest of the text, the rest of the verse goes a little bit more towards the helping part, which says, and from the depths of my heart, I should hold others dear and supreme. So then I go a step further than just not being humble and kind of like, how can I say, it's not suppressing, I'm just controlling my pride and the way that my pride kind of like normally harms and goes, kind of like outside and shows off and yeah, creates negativities and suffering for others. So that's the first thing. And then the second is that I hold them dear and supreme. So holding these beings, holding sentient beings dear and supreme, means helping them, means putting them, their happiness as, a wish, our goal, and as important as our own happiness. That is why we say supreme, supreme in this way. And then we go even further. We can go even further and talk about what we talked last time, in the last verse that we did, which was the one that we said, who are determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I hold them most dear at all times. So most, like literally talking about more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. So here's the same. Hold dear and supreme, recognizing that for us to have the pleasures and happiness of this life, everything that we have that is pleasurable and happy for us depends on others. And if that is the same in this life, that means in all our previous and future lives is also going to depend on others. if we don't eliminate, okay, that wish to use sentient beings, let's say like that, to give us our pleasures and happiness. So then when we are talking about it, developing our body, speech, and mind towards enlightenment, we need sentient beings. They are precious and supreme because of that. So then we can go even further, which is the development of bodhicitta normally has two methods in the Buddhist tradition. Okay, Christopher, I hope it is not too much because you're coming today, but you just take what you can, and then you just park the things that don't make sense, and then you don't need to believe in anything I say, but just try for yourself if it makes sense. But the two methodologies and methods for developing bodhicitta is exchanging self for others and the 7-point cause and effect. And the 7-point cause and effect, it starts with equanimity as the basis. And then starts with the second aspect, which is one of the most difficult aspects to realize in the Tibetan Buddhism, which is seeing all sentient beings as has been your mother. What do you mean by that, Calden? It means that in Buddhism, we talk about beginningless lives. It means that we have had beginningless lives. Never stopped. Never. There's beginningless. So that means that all sentient beings have been your mother. Because for you to be born, you had to be born from something, from someone. If you are a body, if you have a body of a human being or an animal, you have to have. So that means that all sentient beings have been your mother in previous lives. Therefore, they have helped you. Not only in this life that we can see the direct help, which is giving you a body, feeding you, nourishing you, but helping you, right? So that means that when we are talking about, from the depths of my heart, I should hold others dear and supreme, I'm also thinking if there's a mindset of seeing that these beings have helped me beginningless times and they continue to help me in this life. So when am I going to stop being using all of these help that they gave to me to just feel myself good and better than others? And when I'm going to start using that body, speech, and mind, which I only have because of the benefit and kindness of others, to help them, to think about how to develop myself, develop my skills, my abilities, my wisdom, open my heart to help them be free from their suffering. That is the idea. That is the kind of that inner wish that we are trying to develop in this talk, in this verse. That is what we are trying. We are trying to kind of say, wow, you know, we have that potential, because they are supreme in that way that they help us transform and train our mind and achieve enlightenment, right? So in that way, that's why they are dear and supreme, because they are helping us to transform our own suffering. The moment that I put them, that I consider myself the lowest of all, and I stop putting myself in this pedestal, and I consider myself the lowest of all, they are helping me to be happy and to find happiness. Because when I am proud of myself with this strong sense of I, whoever says something, looks at me, or even I hear something that they are talking about me, boom, explodes. So I'm suffering, isn't it? So hard to keep that self-image of amazingness all the time because it's based in an idea. And then someone will criticize you, and then you're gonna explode because you're looking at yourself as if this is extra layer, you know, of goodness. I'm saying that you are not good enough. No, I'm just saying the more realistic you are, the more in tune and in harmony with where you actually truly are, you can then develop your good qualities and decrease your bad habits, right? If I don't know that I don't, if I don't tell to myself that I have a problem, how I'm gonna want to change? So pride blinds us, you know? It's like if I have an addiction and I don't see that I have an addiction, so I will never change. I will never want to change. Even if people say to me and all of that, blah, 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 it needs to come from me recognizing it. And then I can do something about it. So that is the idea. It's recognizing the negative aspects of pride and how pride really, as I say, pride in relation to then demeaning others, right? Not the good self-esteem. Or, last month was Pride Month, about kind of like about homosexuals and gay people, all of that. And it's wonderful that they can actually bring that good self-esteem up so they can feel good, right? So they can feel worth, so they can work from there. So that is the type of pride that can help us. The pride that kind of like brings us to equanimity with ourselves, a good sense of self. And then from there, I can help. But the moment that I am just thinking about myself and myself only, and I am not good enough, or I'm kind of like this, then I'm going to use the bad type of pride to demean others so I can feel good with myself. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring happiness for you. It doesn't bring happiness for others. So these two aspects are very important, okay, of this verse, which is the first is by putting myself the lowest of all, considering myself the lowest of all, I stop harming others. And therefore, immediately, I stop harming myself as well. Because let's face it, let's be honest here. You have a friend, okay? A friend that keeps only talking about themselves and blah, 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 and me, 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 me. Isn't that a boring friend? You're tired of this person after 5 minutes. You don't want to be around this person. So think about when we do that. When we are just like, oh, but I went to Europe in my vacation and I did that and I did that and yeah. I had a friend that I used to like help something, and then I used to say, count how many I's you said in your phrases, just to check. Because that is very important because when I just start, me, just that. So nobody's going to want to hang out with me. So I'm going to feel lonely. I'm going to feel bad. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to inflate even more and I'm going to put even more myself into a pedestal and say, oh yes, these people, they're not like me. That's how we go. So then the first part of considering myself the lowest of all is to stop that. Stop. Stop making you and others suffer. Okay? That is already great if we can just do that. Then comes the second part. Then comes the part of, and from the depths of your heart, because you understand equanimity, you understand happiness, you understand what suffering means, you understand that suffering comes from the mental state, from this pride mindset, right? Then you understand that, and then you say, I will hold others dear and supreme. I will help them actually to be happy. I will help them to feel good with themselves. You know? Instead of kind of like saying to others, oh, I did that, I'm gonna ask questions. And how are you? You know? What are you doing? Oh, how is it for you? Oh, yes, you saw it. What is your opinion? I'm going to start get interested in others. You understand that? I have sometimes I have some people that kind of like I always been like this, but I think that Buddhism really, and especially these mind training, gave to me this idea that if people don't ask, I'm not gonna tell about myself. And there's people that they can kind of like be with me, and then they can talk, and they ask no questions about even how are you. After a 30-minute conversation. So that for me is that idea of like, oh, very good, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna kind of like now say, oh, you're being selfish and all of that. No, I even gonna put myself even lower than that. Consider myself. Consider myself doesn't mean physically putting yourself lower. Just consider in your mind yourself. Lowest in the way of that your happiness and the happiness of others are exactly the same. But right now, the way you're seeing it is here. So you bring it down. You bring it lower. You understand? That is the idea. Do you have any questions? I've been talking a lot. Christopher, how are you doing there?
I'm doing very well. The point
Yes.
about everyone in the past, in a past life has been your mother, I think is an extremely important consideration. Um, if I say that person's mistreating me, then I think that person in a past life has been my mother and has nurtured me. So it's an extremely important um, lesson,
It
something
is.
that is very, very helpful.
Yes, yes. It is, it's very powerful. It's a very powerful mindset. That's why it's so difficult to develop in some ways. Because it's literally realizing that the kindness. And I now my brother just had a little baby, a little girl, and I'm seeing how, especially in this like 2 months that she's been born, she's totally dependent, totally in every single aspect of their life, right? Even kind of like you cannot put her in a certain kind of like posture, because maybe they can kind of like not breathe, or kind of like vomit and something like that. It's just like everything, even for survivors breathing, they need kind of like help in a way, you know so that is so profound if you think about it, that someone did that to us in this life, right? That someone did that last. Maybe we don't have a good relationship with our mothers, and our mothers have been nasty to us. That's fine, but someone did that. Or even maybe they did that in that moment, and maybe they became nasty afterwards. That's okay, but at that moment they were nice. So just think about that. And then if you really start to reflect on that, you start to say, well, at least for, I don't know, some years of my life, then it's really, really incredible, how kind and compassionate and loving they've been. So that mindset and thinking that every life I had that, especially as a human being or as an animal. The animals as well. If you see some of the animals, the way that they take care, if you see the birds, that they go and they bring food, and then they bring food, or, the penguins. I was watching the other day with my dad something about the penguins that the one of them stay, and then they go, and then they travel far, and then they take, and then they come back, or like all of these so it's just amazing, 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 amazing kindness. So that is important for us to kind of like think about it when we are with others, and people are kind of like touching our buttons and pushing our buttons. We can think about it in this way, and instead of reacting with pride, which is mean, oh yeah, you're so good, like you're gonna see how I'm better, and that kind of like revenge type of mindset as well, of like I'm much better, you're gonna see. That mind cuts, just to cut that mind, so important. So then you consider yourself that happiness of those other beings are important, so you just bring that back. Bob, any questions? Someone? Alex? Considerations?
Just a
No,
comment.
this was great. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Alex?
Um, the most difficult thing is to remember these teachings when that I became like, oh, they are harming my eye.
Inflated.
Yes. So I was listening last night, Lamakirti. I found it in Discovering Buddhism, and I was, oh my God, that's my teacher. And he was talking about doing the practice to protect the mind.
Yes. It's exactly like this. Mind training is, if you think about it, that's why I find sometimes, the Buddhist teachings just so perfect in that way, because it is actually, it looks like when you read it, it is about doing something towards others, right? It's like, oh, you hold them supreme, you hold that, but who benefits from all of that? You. You're protecting yourself from your normal ways that you create suffering for yourself, which is pride. Allowing yourself being a hostage. I like this word, hostage of pride. You know? That is what kind of like not normally hurts you, is when you're feeling, experiencing that, those minds of pride, of attachment, of anger, of confusion, of low self-esteem. So when we're doing these practices, we're doing the opposite. We're helping ourselves. But how we're doing that, considering ourselves the lowest of all and holding others dear and supreme. So these two aspects of it is the key for developing, decreasing our suffering, which is putting ourselves lower, right? Which is fighting freeing ourselves from the mind of pride, right? So become free from the mind of pride when we put ourselves in the lowest, as see ourselves the lowest of all, and we become happy. So it's the two aspects of bodhicitta, and so it's us, not our aspiration. We become free, and we become free from suffering, and we help others to find happiness. Because when you hold others dear and supreme, you can hold others dear and supreme by speaking something nice, you know? And that makes the other person happy, doesn't it? When you acknowledge that person. I say acknowledgement. Acknowledgement and what was the other one? And um, there was two words that I used the other day that I said these two are so important in our time and day and life. Acknowledging the other person, acknowledging what the other person has done, acknowledging what the other person, how the other person is important, how the other person is also worthy, right? Just that. People don't need much more, you know and then you think, when some people do to you, don't you feel like that? So the type of good pride is a little bit of that, is understanding and acknowledging your self-worth as well, but not in an inflated, completely megalomaniac way that I am the best of the best, blah, blah, blah. No, but just like normal, yes. I've done amazing things and I have these habits, and so amazing that I have tools and people and conditions to work on these habits, and amazing that can do these more and more and more. Just that. Simple, not very complicated. Does it make sense? And then that's why it's protecting the mind, Alex, in that way. You're protecting the mind of now, which is the mind of pride and attachment, which is making you suffer. And then it goes beyond. That is why for me Buddhism is incredible, because you can just say sometimes, just say, oh yeah, just be a nice person, but yeah, it's not about that. It's first being free from the suffering and the cause of the suffering, which is the pride mind, recognizing it first, right? Wherever you are, whoever you are with, so recognizing it, then decreasing it, controlling it or freeing yourself from that mind. And then it goes further and say, help them, do something, hold them dear and supreme, because they are. Because it's due to their kindness that you exist, and you can meet the Dharma, and you can help and improve yourself, and you can be happy. Wow, 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 wow. Incredible, incredible. Okay, So, any questions, commentaries? So I have homework for you, Christopher. You thought that he's just here and you can just go away and don't do anything. Homework. We have homework here. We are very, dedicated people, but we have homework. And homework is for you to think, keep it in your mind from today, Thursday, until next Thursday when we meet again. How do you recognize your own pride? Give yourself examples. And if you can, which would be nice, is that if you have someone, because that is what I want to try to do it when I arrive in Florida next week. Oh, now, but for us to have discussion groups a little bit, okay? That we can do that. That we can kind of like give ourselves example, and then it's kind of like putting ourselves in the spotlight. Because we don't like to say, oh yes, I normally, when I am with my friends, when I am with my family, when I am with my colleagues, I kind of like, I always like to show off because I have this big car, or because I have that, because I did, this thing, and I like this. So that is very important. Very good. Because the more we do that, Alex, this is for what you were saying, is like how to try to remember. The more we think about it and the more we actually talk and recognize and discuss with others, the fresher it becomes in our minds. That is what meditation is. Meditation calls familiarization. The more we familiarize ourselves with it, the easier it becomes than the moment, we start to recognize it. That's the idea. It's just like, oh, who is there? Oh, okay. I have a friend that he used to give names to his negative emotions, like, oh, yes, Jordan is here, it's like the proud, his pride self, or kind of like, so you kind of like just recognizing that. Recognizing is enough. No. Then you need to do mind training. Then you say, okay, what do I do now that I recognize? I put myself lowest. Wait a minute. Yes, you know a lot, but you also don't know so many things. And wait a minute. This person is also very kind and nice. So yeah, you know that like you're not thinking about these, and well, you have good qualities, but it's not that much. So you start to talk to yourself and say, wait, calm down, tiger, like that. Just kind of like, just lower it. And then you start to think about, and not only this, look at that. What are you going to do? You're going to start harming all of these people, saying me, 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 me. Nobody's going to be wanting to stay with you, close to you. Nobody's going to be your friend. Why you want that? And then you think about it. Not only this, look at these people. You're losing the opportunity of being nice, kind, and because you're just thinking about me, 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 me. What is that? Like that, being very ground and very like useful day to day. So think about that, okay? So first is think about how to recognize pride in your life, and if you can give yourself examples, and if you have a friend, you can, or write down as well if you want, very good also writing down, sometimes very good. And then just try to think. Just try to think as well. The second point is, how can you, or try to think or to apply would be even better, how putting into practice that idea of considering yourself the lowest, and wanting to benefit others, how these two aspects could help you. Okay? Or try to use it. Try to make at least once put into practice these two. Consider yourself the others and wanting to have just once this week. I know pride doesn't come so easy for you guys, but maybe just put it this effort, that if it appears once, you just try to put that. Okay. So we're gonna dedicate. Dedication means that we kind of like make sure that now that we opened the seed, we said that we wanted to plant a seed of apple. Here we want to plant the seed of bodhicitta. So we open, and then we planted the seed with this blah blah blah, with this talk and the things that we think. And now we need to seal it, make sure that we're gonna kind of like nourish it. Otherwise, we just forget about it, and then all the negative habits come and take the seed away. So that's the idea of dedication. Dedication is making sure that we can remember that, that everything that we hear, everything that we contemplated and everything we're going to do about pride this week, that we may use it so we can achieve this enlightened state of no more suffering for myself, and all the happiness and the qualities for myself, so I can be of use, so I can help others to achieve the same state. Okay? That is the idea. So everything that we did here is for that goal. So we push into that direction. And of course, we understand that we would never be able to even hear about these things and all of that if it was not from the kindness of our teachers, and especially here, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who upholds the teachings in such a perfect way, showing us it's possible to achieve those states, to really practice the mind and to practice and transform the mind. And our precious teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who passed away, and we are making strong dedications to come back and continue guiding us. And we also dedicate for, all of the misery, all of the wars, all of the problems, socio-economical, like emotional, and, all of the problems that there is in this world, if you think about it, has a mind of pride behind it. Okay? So we just try to, by doing what we are doing here, we are eliminating the causes, and the entire world, we wish to be free from pride and all the suffering, that all of these sufferings, the wars and the famine and all of these horrible things, to completely be eliminated and cease right here and right now. And we also dedicate that, the places like Thubten, Kunga, Ling, and all the places like that bring those teachings, to bring those aspects for us to continue having the necessary resources of people, of places, of teachers that can continue, so we can continue learning and developing and transforming and having a community like here, that we have a beautiful community together. Okay, so we dedicate for that as well. And we can make special dedications for anyone that we want, that is going through a lot of difficulties. We dedicate that they can also be free from their suffering. Okay, so thank you very, very, very much. I hope it was in any way beneficial, and
Thank you. It was great.
you Saturday, for those that are going to have a dinner. I think we're going to have dinner somewhere. They are organizing that. Otherwise, on Sunday, 11 a.m., we are live at Thubten Kungaling. So I see you all there. Thank you so much,
Great.
guys. Thank you. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Venerable
much.
God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Christopher.
you. Thank you.
Thank everybody. See you
Yeah.
soon.
See
Bye.
you
Thank you.
soon.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Have a good
Bye,
trip.
Hannah.